Let's talk about some wins. We got the story from Newsweek by journalist Andy No.
Oh.
Prosecutors make first move to break up Antifa cell as 11 activists charged with violence. Now, this is not an opinion piece. This is a factual news report by Andy No for Newsweek. And the reason I'm emphasizing a factual news report by journalist Andy No is because Antifa and these extremists have tried their hardest to smear and besmirch his name simply for reporting on what they do. This is it. Newsweek is not some far-right publication or some conspiracy blog. Newsweek's actually fairly left-leaning. And here we have a factual news piece. You see, prosecutors are actually going after Antifa. They say, Andy writes, this week, the San Diego County District Attorney's Office charged 11 alleged Antifa members with felony conspiracy and felony assault charges, among other crimes, in a riot case where supporters of former President Donald Trump and random bystanders were beaten in Pacific Beach, California in January. 8 suspects were arraigned this week. They have all pleaded not guilty. There's videos of what happened. There are reports that there were minors who were simply walking down the street and Antifa decided to attack and pepper spray them. Jeez. There was a guy who was apparently longboarding with his dog and they pepper spray this guy for no reason because they assume if you're there, you must be a Trump supporter. Oh, hey, I'm curious here. You know, I think we should be happy that finally we're seeing law enforcement go after Antifa. Right? Mm-hmm. This is finally, how long has it taken? But my concern is it too little too late? And is it just kind of a show, some appeasement? You know what I mean? Are they actually going to get serious across the board around the country and deal with this extremism?
Well, I want to know exactly what happened in this particular case before kind of espousing an opinion on it. But what brings me to think about, when I hear about this story was just a few months ago when Antifa was caught celebrating because their opponents were being arrested. They were celebrating when the FBI was going after Trump supporters. Yep. And my first comment on them celebrating it's only a matter of time until the state turns against you and starts arresting you. So I think this could be the first of that. I still don't know a lot of the details around this case, but did they have any charges against these individuals?
Yeah, felony conspiracy and felony assault.
Yep. Okay.
Among other crimes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Do they know?
Let me see if I can come down. Yeah. Okay. So we have, Samuel Ogden charged with felony conspiracy and assault. We've got Jesse Cannon, felony conspiracy, felony assault. So, basically they're all being charged similarly. And it's for trying to cause a great bodily harm to individuals. They're fundraising to try and deal with this. These people thought they were untouchable. Yeah. They felt like that the cops couldn't do anything. Right. And you know what? For several years, that was the case.
Right.
Well, the cops weren't doing anything for a long time, and as we know, the cops and the feds have a lot of data. They're running huge dragnet information operations where they literally are flying drones over a lot of these protests. They know a lot more than they let on. So I would say that the federal authorities, the surveillance grids know almost everything. So to see this kind of turn when they were previously cheered on by many establishment institutions for doing these actions, to see them now face the ramifications of them shows a kind of very interesting turn. I mean, there could be just not enough right-wingers for them to go after for the petty crimes. So they're like, okay, we got to do something now.
And now they might be going quick.
After. Yeah, we got to do something to justify these overly huge budgets that we got. But it's going to be. I need to read more into this.
I wonder if this is actually because the midterms are coming up and the establishment Democrats know that this is a huge problem for them.
I do think also, though, the courts have proven to be the front lines lately, and it's been pretty fascinating to watch justice at work. You had, the Charlottesville stuff came up, and those white supremacist groups or whatever were fined like so much money, enough money to completely bankrupt them out of existence, which is kind of,
But they don't look
and you had Rittenhouse, that was proper justice. The Smollett trial,
the Charlottesville thing is interesting. Suing private citizens who have no money just doesn't do anything.
No, I mean, that's not effective, right? I mean, it's not going to be effective for that, but it is, an interesting thing to see that the courts are really on the front lines of this. If you look at the biggest stories that we've had lately, they've all been trials. It's all been like waiting for a verdict,
Yeah.
And that's been pretty wild. The Supreme Court oral arguments have been heating up, the whole situation with the abortion laws. Courts are the front lines. It's interesting too, because once things hit the courts, that's really where that's really where you're going to start to see what's going to happen, like what the precedent is going to be, what the law is going to be.
Next year in June, it's widely believed that the Supreme Court's going to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And that was leftist activists. There was one guy from Slate, and he was like, that's it. It's done. The Supreme Court will overturn Roe v. Wade. And everyone started freaking out. And he's like, no. It's a prediction, not a statement of fact, but it's probably true. And even like NBC was saying this. Now, I say this in the context of Antifa. How the far left will be able to rally a lot of crazy young people around this, should it happen. But that will be bad for Democrats.
Right. It will be bad for Democrats. The other thing that's bad for Democrats is that they had to base abortion rights on a Supreme Court decision, and they could never actually pass it on a federal level. It's a states' rights issue. It's not elucidated in the Constitution. When you heard the oral arguments, I guess it was whenever it was last week, and Justice Thomas, who is so interesting whenever he talks, it's so interesting because he was, he hardly ever says anything, but he consistently was asking, what is the basis in the Constitution for abortion rights? Is it liberty? Is it this? And
she's the woman, I forgot her name.
Counsel just kept being like,
well, she said
it's abortion right.
Amendment.
Yeah.
The 14th Amendment, and it's a liberty issue.
Right.
But,
and I don't think that's good enough. And I think it's bad law. Because why is it bad law? Because it's not actually a law. Like they didn't make a law. This needs to go through Congress. If they want a federal abortion rights thing, they need to make an amendment and do it. And they can't.
And that's what Kavanaugh said.
Yes.
He said, why is this going to the court and not through legislation?
That's exactly right.
Well, here's what I see happening. I think Antifa will definitely use this kind of stuff. Should they actually overturn Roe v. Wade, they're going to have a powerful media asset to rally a bunch of young, ignorant people and people who are not all with it, if you know what I mean, into getting violent.
Right.
Because their agenda is burn it to the ground and then rebuild. But the establishment Democrat, their agenda is like win the moderates over in the midterms. You've got a flailing economy. You've got abysmal job growth. You've got the Democrats trying to claim that we're in the Biden boom period. I'm like, you can only lie so much when people can't buy cereal anymore. And you're going to add to that the extremist crackpots going around smashing up windows, and they know it. So I wonder if this is preemptive. Because they're like, if we don't start arresting these people, they're going to go nuts, and it's not going to be a red wave, a red tsunami. It is going to be a red great flood. Yes. Build your ark now.
Right.
I'm looking into this, and these are not federal charges. It looks like this was charges from the San Diego County District Attorney. San Diego has a lot of right wingers in there, so it wouldn't surprise me if this was like a local effort for them to go after individuals that target other people and hurt them, because they worked with other local police departments, and it looks like they have a very solid case here, as they also were able to get a whole bunch of weapons, drugs, on some of the suspects that were arrested here. I think it was 8 suspects in total. There were search warrants issued. So this seems more like a local issue rather than a federal issue. I think that also matters.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Why should it not be a local
issue?
No,
I'm not saying it matters. I'm just saying that it is a local issue. It's not a federal issue.
Yeah. So, but where California leads, the rest of the country follows. And I'm really optimistic that this precedent will kind of set the stage for some other cities to do the same thing.
Do you think it will?
I hope so.
Did you know that I learned this from the redheaded libertarian Josie, good friend of the show, that communists aren't considered people for the sake of human rights in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So this is really interesting, actually, because it's fallen out of, I suppose, legal precedent. But apparently, in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, it says this provision will not be construed as to provide, like rights to communists or communist-associated organizations or something like that. Antifa is quite literally rooted in Weimar Germany's communist anti-fascista action or whatever, which was literally a communist organization. They use the same flag, same name. So I wonder if there's anything there we should be worried about, or I don't know. I certainly don't like the idea of the government being like, we've deemed you a communist, therefore, because they could call anybody a communist.
Yeah.
They could claim anyone.
Have.
Right.
But
Antifa's literally a communist organization, and maybe the reason we won't actually see anything from that provision is because we don't care about it culturally, and because many of the people in federal law enforcement, I know this was state level charges, but many high-ranking, Democrats are also, at the very least, socialist, have communist leanings, or are unwilling to go after communists out of fear.
Yeah. I think they are afraid. I think they're afraid to go after, I mean, we see this at the Post Millennial all the time, right? Like these Antifa people are coming after us. They come after Andy all of the time. And they have this weird, this communist ideology, and they don't really care about anything else. And they just use the fear tactics. They say like, don't fund this business, don't put your ads on this business, don't talk to this person because I'm telling you to, so trust me. And nobody ever looks into their background or looks into like, the horrible things that they've done or what they're about.
It's about time, people started waking up to what these extremists do. They lie, they cheat, they steal, and it's all for power. And a good example is what we mentioned earlier, that they're still backing Jussie Smollett even after he's been found guilty.
Yeah.
But let's talk about lawfare, because I am really excited to talk about this story. From the Daily Dot, 2 journalists sue Andy Ngo over his online use of their videos. They say Ngo reposted their videos without permission, leading to online and physical attacks from his audience. I would just like to point out, I do not believe going to a court and suing for damages and then being like, people were threatening us online is any grounds for any complaint against Andy Ngo, because he had nothing to do with that. That's immaterial. They say 2 journalists have filed a lawsuit against Andy Ngo for copyright infringement. Journalists Grace Morgan and Melissa Claudio Lewis say that Ngo downloaded and tweeted their videos without permission. Their suit seeks damages and a permanent injunction prohibiting Ngo from posting their videos without express consent. Now, before I show you this, I would like to make one definitive statement and prediction right now in the absolute. I welcome being wrong, but I will say it. Andy Ngo will win on summary judgment. He will then seek legal fees, and he will win legal fees. This lawsuit is so laughably bad that I cannot believe they even wasted 1 red cent to file it. What Andy Ngo is being accused of doing is so beyond fair use. I have to imagine the first thing the judge is going to say to the plaintiffs in this case is, are you sure about this? You're going to be billed by a lawyer for it. And then he might come after you. Andy could file a claim for legal fees, and he will be awarded them. This is beyond frivolous. Now, there are lawsuits where it's like, now that's questionable at best. Okay, so good friend of mine, Cassandra Fairbanks, she filed a lawsuit against some reporter because she claimed the OK hand sign was a white supremacy gesture, and Cassandra lost because it is very difficult to win these kinds of lawsuits. But let me show you here from the Daily Dot. Here are the tweets from Melissa Claudio Lewis. She was on the ground filming. She said cops are getting guardian angels to protect them. Here's one where she said Moltco tried to bust out but found their gate wasn't functional. They say when Andy Ngo posted it, he wrote, police observed the rioting Antifa from behind a gate in downtown Portland last night. And as you can see, Andy Ngo did not, in fact, download this video. All he did was use Twitter's internal function to repost it in a tweet. And thus you can see the woman's name, Melissa Claudio Lewis, and her video hosted on her Twitter account in Andy Ngo's tweet. In another tweet, they say he similarly altered text. Altering text is, here's the funny thing. I just got it. If they're actually trying to make the case, like, but Andy is being sued because he also altered the text. I'm like, that's in defense of Andy. Altering text for commentary or criticism is transformative, and it's commentary and criticism.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now here's the best part. In the next tweet they highlight, you can see that Andy Ngo is literally reposting their video directly through Twitter's tweet function. He did not download this video and re-upload it. You can see the woman Grace Morgan's name in this. So let me make this very simple. Andy Ngo retweeted people on Twitter taking publicly available videos, providing his own commentary on them for a newsworthy purpose.
That's correct.
It is like so laughably fair use.
Yes.
That he is going to win summary judgment. That means there will be no trial. The judge is going to read it and be like, dismissed.
Get out.
And it's not like they turned off the retweet function or turned off comments or anything like that.
They're just mad that it was
you can
Andy
do
who
that.
did it.
They just don't like Andy. And it's because Andy exposes them. He exposes them so thoroughly. And I think that he is so correct to be fundraising for his defense on this one.
So
Definitely.
So is this a copyright complaint or harassment complaint?
It's a
or
copyright.
Both? Copyright.
Copyright
But he
complaint.
attributed, he put their
Literally.
name.
Yeah.
Attribution,
Yeah.
attribution's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I would like to reference the notorious case of Akilah Hughes v. Carl Benjamin.
Yes.
Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad on YouTube, uploaded raw clips from Akilah Hughes' YouTube. And the only thing he did, there's nothing in the videos. It's literally her raw clips from a longer video. And he titled it something like liberal sense of self-awareness.
Right.
She sued him. Sargon, Carl, very smart. He kept his mouth shut. And everyone asked him, and he says, look, I'm in a lawsuit. I can't speak about it.
Right.
Akilah went on Twitter, talked her mouth off, gave press comments, said, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to take everything. The judge in that case was like, are you sure you want to go forward with this? Because this is very clear-cut fair use.
Right.
And Akilah was like, he's infringing on my copyright. He didn't provide commentary or criticism. She had to change lawyers, and Carl kept his mouth shut. Carl won on summary judgment. He filed for legal fees, and he won again. If Andy Ngo downloaded their videos, reposted them, and then wrote LOL, that would be fair use,
commentary.
and he
Yes.
would win.
Yep.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
So what Andy Ngo has done here is he didn't even download them. He just used Twitter's public functions to retweet it.
And all he did also
commented.
was say, and what happens is Antifa posts it and says, look at these horrible police. And Andy posts it and says, actually, there's another way to look at this situation.
Right.
Maybe take a look at it from this perspective,
Can't handle it.
and there's more than one way to look at anything. This is like a lawsuit about messaging.
Right.
Yeah, so
Good luck with that.
Morgan told the Daily Dot that they're hoping to make it harder for Andy Ngo to steal journalists' content
Oh, boy.
and change the narrative of their reporting, something he has built his career off of. If you post newsworthy video to Twitter where it can be seen by the public, someone can retweet you. That's something you've acquiesced to. Now, I will say, for those that are wondering, how do newswires work? One of the core questions of fair use is if you are infringing upon their market. Now, this is important. If I post a video on Twitter, there is literally no defense. I mean, you can try and muster up one, but they're going to be like, look, you posted the video to Twitter. It's publicly available, can be shared and embedded. I don't know what you want us to do. But if I post maybe like 20 seconds, and then I say to license the full video, go to my website. And someone goes to my website, takes the full version and reposts it and says, well, I saw part of it on Twitter. Now
Right.
you're actually infringing upon my market.
That's different.
So publishing something makes it now available to the public. It can be transformed. It can be commented on. To be fair, it quite literally is copyright infringement, but there is an exception to whether a judge will allow this, and it's quite clear what this is actually. I think it's called ad terrorum. That's what the judge called it in the Akilah Hughes case. These Antifa journalists are suing Andy Ngo not because they think they'll win. They're trying to drain his resources
Yes.
and force him into a fight. Now,
Well, and they want to force him off Twitter. I mean, it's so clear that they just want to force him off Twitter.
Right.
They don't want him to be able to do any reporting on them. And without Andy, I mean, Andy was at the forefront of this kind of reporting.
They tried beating him. They
tried
tried bludgeoning
beating
him.
him.
It
Yes.
didn't work.
Yes. It didn't work.
But an important question here, Libby, maybe you would know this. Was he crossing state lines? Was he tweeting? When he was because, that could be another reason to go after him. But the mainstream media is really, the corporate media really doesn't like that.
Yeah,
so.
they really don't like when you leave your home either. So
I know.
Yeah.
they're against that.
What's amazing is they're claiming that Andy Ngo violated DMCA's. Lewis says, if I had violated DMCA's that many times, my account would no longer exist. Why Andy gets a permanent pass, I can only guess. It's because he's retweeting you,
not right.
and Twitter
Oh my
allows it.
Yes.
And when you complain, they take some of the videos down. That's it.
It doesn't look like a retweet. Is that actually a retweet?
Yes.
That format?
Yeah.
So
Slightly different.
it's slightly different. What
Yeah.
Andy did was he took the direct link to the video, and this is a core function of Twitter. You can, if someone posts media, you can take their link from their Twitter and put it in a tweet and then write whatever you want, but you can see it's included her name in it.
Yeah.
This video is not being hosted by Andy Ngo's account.
And it's directly attributed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you click the one's name and it shows you their account where they've posted it.
Yeah.
And you
It's-
can see
it's-
what she said about it.
It is
Exactly.
literally a retweet of her content.
So does this function remove the other person's commentary? Or
Yes.
Is this, okay.
This is you retweeting the link to their media.
Gotcha.
As
Oh,
opposed to
slightly
retweeting
different.
the entirety of their tweet. So I say retweet because there's no real other word to describe what this is. Someone posts a video with their name on it. It produces a link on Twitter that you can then paste in your tweet, which is hosted by their account, not yours.
So you're basically embedding their video in your tweet.
Right.
Rather than retweeting.
I don't think embed is the right word.
Not embedding.
This video is I guess technically it's the case, but it's quite literally taking their tweet, their media, and putting it in.
Yeah, it might be different.
Twitter has an option when you let's call him Tweeter for now on. I think
that.
that's more appropriate. When you press on a video, it gives you the option to share it through multiple platforms or tweet the video, a part of your own tweet attributing the person who created the video.
It's functionally retweeting.
Yeah, you can embed if you go to publish.twitter.com. That lets you actually embed a tweet in another tweet, but that looks different.
That's called quoting. So like Luke said, you can just click the video and be like, share this video in a tweet. So Andy No isn't downloading or stealing anything. It's like, here's a public video. Let me comment on it.
Well,
and they're like, lawsuit.
He's really careful about that. He wants to attribute. He wants to... And that's part of it too. I mean, he wants to show who the people are who are out there making these videos and doing these actions. He doesn't want to hide that. He doesn't want to take credit for anybody else's work.
So it's a Twitter feature.
Right.
Did he not retweet and just type a paragraph above their Twitter because this format looks better?
I don't know why he did it this way.
I
No,
mean,
he
it's
just literally clicked on the video and clicked tweet video.
It's a better
and then
way
when you
to do
that,
it because you
So
don't
like
see.
right now I have a video up, Ian, right? And I just pressed on it, all right? And it came up and it's and I have an option here. I tweet video and then it has the video here and I just get to write the commentary underneath it.
Nice.
This segment should be called Teaching Ian How to Use Twitter.
You
But
boomer.
I also want to
I have a
Boomer
question.
Ian.
Hold on.
I also want to
Sorry.
stress, as it pertains to copyright law, you may disagree with this, but I can literally download this woman's video, upload it to my own Twitter account, and put H.
Hey, here's a video from Jesse Kelly.
Just the letter H.
From Andrew Pollock on Twitter. It's the exact same format. Jesse Kelly. Should Andrew
Yep.
Pollock sue Jesse Kelly?
Probably not.
No, he shouldn't.
It's clearly frivolous, and you can see how they've framed this. In the article from the Daily Dot, they're like, I'm getting harassed, I'm getting threats because Andy is posting my videos. What they don't like is that when they publish this information, they want to control the narrative. They want to frame it as negatively as possible for the police and for the city. And Andy No can take the video, provide his own commentary, and that's quite literally, look, to say it's fair use, it would be like, imagine there is a 20-foot tall giant with a big shirt that says fair use incarnate. That's what it is. There's no question. Like the judge is going to be like, I'm confused. This is fair use. And they're going to be like, but I'm getting harassed. And he's going to be like, I don't understand. What?
Bummer.
What?
Sorry,
What are you
dude.
talking about?
Right. Also, online harassment. Who doesn't get online harassed? Doesn't doesn't
everyone
that
does.
happen to everyone?
Yeah, the definition
Who
has changed.
cares?
The
Yeah.
definition of harassment is definitely changed. When we would do terms of service at Mars, it's like it's not the same as like harassment from the 80s. That was
Right.
when someone was like banging on your window and
That's
yelling.
totally different. This is like you wake up and somebody's like, I hope you get killed. I woke up to this the other day. Actually, Andy was like, Livy, they're saying nasty things about you now. And I was like, oh, good.
What's new?
Thanks. That's great.
Wonderful.
And this is why I think, this is why it's important to support independent journalism. It's why it's important to support journalists like Andy or outlets like the Post Millennial, because these people are coming after us. They're not coming after us for any reasonable reason. We're not doing anything wrong. They just don't like that we're actually reporting on their criminal activities. They don't want to be called out. They don't want anyone to look at their activities from the perspective of, you guys are committing crimes. You are hurting other people, actually physically hurting other people. And now you're whining that somebody's saying something nasty about you on Twitter. You're out there injuring others.
I'll say this too. There are a bunch of accounts that go into the members only section of timcast.com and post those videos. And that is where they're arguably not in fair use territory. And the reason is, although they're providing commentary or criticism on our videos, this was where it gets a little bit murky. By publishing stuff that we have behind a paywall, it's arguably infringing upon our market by giving away our content for free. However, personally, I'm still fine with it.
Right.
Like when I see the leftists and they're like, Tim Pool and his members only said X or Y, I'm like, look, it's commentary, it's newsworthy. I don't like they're giving this stuff away for free, but it's kind of a preview.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be bothered with dealing with it, and I honestly welcome the commentary and criticism. It's tough because I don't want them to.
I mean, you buy a book and then you quote the book.
Or a movie comes out and you show a clip from it
Right,
and
yeah.
talk about it. Fair use.
I think that's fine.
The thing is, though, if there's like a movie and you take a clip from it on YouTube, they'll probably just knock you down anyway, even though it is fair use and you got to fight for it.
Yeah. I played a small, like even a second from the Matrix trailer, and automatically copyright strike. I'm like, what?
Really?
It's not a strike
From
though.
the trailer?
Flag.
Yeah, a flag.
From the
And-
trailer?
Yeah, from the trailer.
But
which
aren't
is
they,
crazy.
isn't that out there in order to
And it wasn't
publicize
even
the
it wasn't
film?
even the trailer. It was just a few seconds as I was just like having it in the
Interesting.
background going through the browser.
Jeez.
And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
yeah, that's
That
pretty
happened to
crazy.
me with
Yeah.
with Joe Rogan actually, because I pulled up his YouTube video and was talking about the podcast without playing it, and it automatically got flagged.
Wow.
And I had to be like, Joe, it's not like, can you get it off? And he was like, oh, sorry, man. But it was automatic. I've had it happen to me too,
Right.
where people are like, I've had angry leftists be like, Tim Pool copyright claimed my video, and I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, YouTube automatically does it, dude. And so then I've gone in and released it, be like, I don't want it. I don't care.
I don't
Say
want
whatever
your
the hell you
stupid
want.
thing. Right.
That's the thing, right? One of the problems that the whatever the freedom faction, I guess, the libertarian little L has, is that we're willing to be like, well, they're allowed to use our content to criticize us, and then they will sue you.
Right.
So it's look, man. The sad reality is that cheaters win.
Yeah.
Cheaters win.
Not always. They
Yeah,
get
Not-
caught. Most of
No,
them
no, no.
get caught eventually.
That's not true. You
don't
think they get caught because some get caught, but you'd be surprised how many people are playing shady games. Look, everybody lies on their resume.
Really?
Really?
I was
Yeah.
actually
Never have.
encouraged to.
Oh, I'm being hyperbolic.
Okay.
Wait, are you,
I-
you
I was
seriously
told
think
to.
people don't lie on their resumes?
As an actor, when I went to LA, they were like, okay, this is the way it works in LA. You're not in the union. You're not SAG. But if you want to be SAG, put your SAG on your resume. And then when they see it, they'll think you're already in the union. They'll hire you. And then when they realize you're not in the
just wanna
union,
be.
they'll just put you in the union. And that's what they did.
Wow.
They hired me for a commercial, and then they just were like, well, all right, just give him his union card.
Jeez.
That's wild.
yeah, most
Lie.
people lie on their resumes.
Fake it till you make it.
That's like a
Yes.
fairly common thing.
I'd never lied on like a job, like a non-acting resume, but I was encouraged to by my agent, and it worked. It was crazy.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.